In May of 2019, an anonymous person went on Reddit and posted a long, very serious allegation against Mike Boudet of Sword and Scale. And now Mike is initiating the legal process to go after that person for defamation, tortious interference, and invasion of privacy. Let's take a quick look and talk about it. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. We got a quick legal topic to talk about today. Mike Boudet, the creator and owner of Sword and Scale podcast, and his company are suing to find the identity of an anonymous user on Reddit who posted a very serious accusation that has damaged their business and damaged Mike's reputation personally. So it's not super easy to do this, to figure out who anonymously posted something on the internet, but Mike is initiating the legal process. Actually, I mean, he's already done this. This was filed back in January. Mike has initiated the legal process to find that out, presumably so they could pursue a defamation claim as well as tortious interference and invasion of privacy. I have the documents that we're going to go through in just a second. If you like these quick legal updates and legal news bits about people in your sphere of social media and all of that stuff and the legal issues that they're dealing with, please hit like and subscribe and all of that stuff. You know the drill. YouTube holds me at gunpoint, makes me do it. I'm mostly kidding, only mostly kidding. Let's take a look at these documents, okay? So Sword and Scale, if you don't know, is a true crime podcast, and it's one of the early true crime podcasts. If you're familiar with shows like Serial that came out from NPR, Sword and Scale actually predates Serial by a little bit, and it's a very, very popular sort of genre in the podcasting sphere. So Mike Boudet creates one of the early true crime podcasts. It is very popular. They have a large Patreon, all of that stuff. And someone decides to go online and post something that is pretty serious, accusing Mike of grooming and pedophilia and other stuff. The Reddit post is actually included in this, but I believe it's still up on the Sword and Scale subreddit. So now they want to find the person who published the defamatory and damaging statements, and they want to pursue legal action against them. But because it's the internet and anonymity is a thing, and Reddit is protective of the anonymity of its users, you have to go through and you have to get a judge to basically say you have created here a prima facie cause of action for this thing sufficient to engage in pretrial discovery. Okay, so normal process, you would sue someone and then you would get discovery to get access to records that you might not otherwise see. Can't do that if you don't know who it is. So you go through a pretrial discovery process. But Reddit can't just run around giving out the names of everybody just because you say you don't like what they posted. So they've got this multi-step sort of process where you sue the anonymous person, in this case as John Doe, user / Boudet away on Reddit. And then you sue them in their anonymous capacity, and you get a judge's permission to say, yeah, you have enough here to go ahead and pursue a legal cause of action against this person. We'll authorize pretrial discovery for Reddit. So then you can provide that document to Reddit, and then Reddit is complying with a court order and not just wantonly giving up the private identities of people who would otherwise be anonymous. It's an expensive and cumbersome system, but it is nice to protect the privacy of users, and it prevents the rampant abuse that could come when you just publish something anonymously online that someone doesn't like, and then they go to Reddit, dox you, and try and ruin your life, right? There's a whole lot of stuff going on and competing interests here. But let's take a quick look at the legal document and see what this cause of action actually looks like, because it's not common. It's not a common process that people are familiar with. So this is an equitable action by plaintiffs. That's Mike and the company Incongruity, I believe. Yeah, Incongruity LLC. They're the official owners of the Sword and Scale podcast. They're the plaintiffs for a pure bill of discovery against defendants John Doe, aka U/Boudet, a Reddit user who published defamatory content regarding plaintiffs. Through this complaint, plaintiff seeks to obtain disclosure of facts within the defendant's knowledge in aid of the prosecution of an action against defendant John Doe for tortious interference, online harassment, and for the unlawful publication of false, misleading, disparaging, and defamatory statements. Now, this is interesting because it's like a one-party action. I mean, you have an anonymous person on the other end of it. They don't really get to answer unless they reveal their identity, right? They don't really get to answer the allegations. But in a complaint, the allegations that are factual are taken as true to determine if you've made a prima facie showing of the cause of action at play. We've seen this in other lawsuits. The prima facie standard kind of goes, it kind of goes to the heart of a lot of causes of action. Plaintiff Incongruity is a Florida LLC. Boudet is an individual domiciled in Harris County, Texas, and he's a member of Incongruity, and he used to be a resident of Florida. Defendant John Doe's identity and location are unknown to the plaintiffs at this time. That's what this whole thing is about. Who is this? So we can serve the lawsuit upon them. Interestingly, they have a theory of jurisdiction here. Why is this in Florida? What's the purpose? I mean, for one thing, Incongruity is a Florida LLC. Mike used to live in Florida, according to the complaint. So those things lend to the idea that this should be in Florida, but you got to back it up a little bit more than that. So they're saying that the content that was posted by the Reddit user was viewed and accessed by at least one Florida resident with the initials NT of Doral, Florida, while NT was in Miami-Dade County, Florida. Thus, defendants' tortious acts took place within this court's jurisdiction. So this has impacted them in Florida, is what they're saying. And so they're also saying venue is proper in Miami-Dade County as the underlying acts described below occurred in Miami-Dade County, Florida. This court has subject matter jurisdiction over the matter because a pure bill of discovery falls within the equity jurisdiction of this court. So, you know, there you go. And they cite Track Microwave Court versus Cully. But that's just a long-standing sort of idea that you can use the legal process to make a good faith showing. They are not doing this for any sort of punitive purpose, but you've got a legitimate cause of action. So you get to find out the identity of the person. You have a right to face your accuser, so to speak. It's not the same thing as a right to face your accuser in criminal court, but it is the concept here. Someone gets to say something about you and do damage to you. If they're doing the damage, if they meet all of those steps of defamation, then we have to let you attempt to get recourse against them if you are wronged. And so again, this part of the lawsuit is merely to determine that the other party has, on the face of it, done enough wrong things to merit the court to let you try and figure out who it is. So we have the main factual allegations here. On or about May 13th, 2019, John Doe used a Reddit platform to perpetrate an attack campaign against Mr. Boudet by publishing and communicating false, defamatory, and completely fabricated statements and content located at reddit.com, r sword and scale. John Doe's defamatory statements include heinous yet false accusations of pedophilia, including false allegations of sexual and suggestive content involving a minor against Mr. Boudet. To give supposed credibility to his or her false statement, Doe commented on May 13th post by disclosing Mr. Boudet's cell phone number, which they go on to allege is private. But that was a private number, not public. So who knows how they got it? Again, not knowing the identity, you'd never know how they actually acquired said number. All of the statements concerning Mr. Boudet within the May 13th post are false. All of them. So everything about Mr. Boudet is false. They have been published by Doe on his or her Reddit for the overt purpose of destroying the personal reputation of Mr. Boudet and business of Incongruity. Doe's statements are knowingly and materially false and were made to defame Mr. Boudet. By publishing the above May 13th post, Doe acted with constitutional malice because she knew they were lying when they made these allegations against Mr. Boudet. So they're saying, I'm sure they're not going to concede the public figure argument straight out the gate, but they are acknowledging that the court would bring up the public figure argument, which would raise the defamation cause of action to require actual malice. Like, look, if Mike's a public figure, then you'd need to show actual malice. So they're trying to throw that out right now, that this person, all of these statements are false and they involve the person. So when they made them, they know that they're false. They know that this didn't happen because they're complete fabrications. That's the way they're going about this. They also go on to say, at the bare minimum, it's reckless disregard. But their main theory is that this is false. They know it's false because this isn't them repeating something about someone else. They're saying, this happened to me, right? If this happened to you, but it didn't actually happen, though, then it's false. And you would know it's false because it didn't happen. That's the right. We follow this logic, I think. There's a bunch of details here that aren't super important to this cause of action for our purposes, for the limited purpose of quickly explaining this thing. So the defendant has no privilege to assert the false and disparaging statements. Privilege or justification are defense to false and disparaging statements, and for like tortious interference or defamation, like they had some reason to say these things. Mostly for tortious interference, privilege and justification are a defense. Okay, so the relief requested. This is not them suing John Doe. That's very important here. They're not suing John Doe in Miami, Florida, to try and get a monetary judgment at this time. This cause of action is for a pure bill of discovery. So pure bill of discovery has long been recognized as an appropriate recourse to determine the identity of a proper party defendant or the appropriate legal theory of relief, citing Mendez versus Cochran. The above alleged facts support, at minimum, claims of libel and invasion of privacy by plaintiffs against John Doe. As a result of Doe's acts, plaintiffs have suffered irreparable damage to their reputations and further damages to Incongruity's business interests in the form of lost advertisements and reduced listenership in an amount to be determined. Plaintiff will be actual parties and not merely witnesses or other third parties to the claims against defendants. So the plaintiffs are saying, we are the aggrieved party. The damage was done to us. We will be the ones bringing suit against whoever John Doe actually is once we figure out who they are, what jurisdiction they're in, and how we can bring this suit and provide proper service. Plaintiffs do not know John Doe's true identity. The only way plaintiffs can determine Doe's identity is by obtaining information from Reddit concerning Reddit user Boudet. Reddit is the only entity that can provide plaintiffs with that information. Courts are remiss to provide legal remedies like this if the information can be otherwise obtained. If there were a bunch of people who were like, oh yeah, I know who that is, and those people were identifiable, then the court might not actually permit discovery against Reddit, because they may say, no, you have other sources to go after and figure out who this person is. But since they have not been able to identify anybody, they're telling the court, we've exhausted all options. We don't know how to find out who this person is other than by going to this one source. The plaintiffs have a right to the relief sought in order to identify John Doe, which is condition precedent to plaintiffs effectuating service of process upon such prospective defendant. This discovery sought is material to plaintiffs' anticipated actions at law. They're not going for anything more from Reddit other than the basic information that would help them identify the person. Name, email address used to create it, IP address, any of the stuff that Reddit would use to identify this person, they would get. Now, interestingly, because it's the internet and because there are ways to protect yourself, they may not get enough information to identify the person even after this. But this is how they're going to try and do it. IP logs could show consistent logins from the same place. If they're all VPN IPs all over the world, and then there are a couple from a particular place or a particular phone, they might be able to track it down that way. And then who knows what information they will get. It may or may not be fruitful for them, but this is really the only way you can try it. you have to ask the one person who has the information, and that's Reddit in this case. So that's the long and short of the cause of action currently. This is out there. This has been filed, like I said, on January 22nd. So we'll be following along to see what happens with this. If you are a Sword and Scale fan and you're here, welcome. If you're looking for updates, I will get them as I am able to procure them, and we'll see what happens if they can identify this user, and if they bring a cause of action against them. We'll definitely follow along. Look, internet defamation is a tough area of law, and defamation law itself is old and busted. It is not really prepared for this sort of power of an anonymous individual to reach so many people with a devastating statement. And if that statement is false and ruins someone's life, business, reputation, typically we would have recourse against them. But now, with the internet, it's very easy to set up this sort of anonymous persona, submit to a forum that doesn't care who you are and has no vetting responsibility, and have that very popular forum be observed by people and cause lots and lots of damage. It's an uphill battle for Mike and Sword and Scale. Or Incongruity, I should say. It's an uphill battle for them in finding out who this person is, and it'll be an even bigger uphill battle for them actually achieving a defamation verdict. But the important thing today is that people are starting to fight this in any way that they can, and part of that fight is to say, no, this is a lie. I'm not going to stand for this. In fact, I'm willing to expend my resources to defend my reputation. And that's a way more and more people are starting to act when they get one of these accusations online. It's almost like just grabbing a PR firm isn't helping anymore. You have to do other sort of rehabilitative activities, and you have to assert your innocence, is what a lot of people are choosing to do. We'll be following it. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this was educational, informative, and maybe it taught you something that you didn't even know what was going on. Again, like and subscribe and whatever else if you want. Otherwise, just check back from time to time, and we'll be following the case. Thanks a lot. Hope you guys have a good day. Peace.